I jumped on the biohacking train. I got an Oura ring and a continuous glucose monitor to optimize everything, but end up with so much data. You have no idea what it means. Googling things like, does the order I eat my food have an effect on my blood sugar? And I'm starting to get lost in diabetes blogs, and I'm not even diabetic. But what if I could ask this instead? Why is my glucose high in the morning? How come some days my protein bar and it has no effect on my sugar, and some days it has more effect on my sugar? How does all of this CGM data interact with my Aura data that's collecting information about my sleep? How do I get answers that make sense for my body and my data? I'm Teresa Younkin. I'm a health informaticist. I've trained executives, led AI pilots, developed smart on fire applications, built out data governance systems. I love data. I love technology. Today, we are going to change how you find medical information using semantic search. And honestly, once you see this, you're going to be like, why wasn't this already a thing? Trust me on this one. So let's talk about why medical search is not the best. It's because current search engines are basically very literal robots. If you type in heart problems, they're like, okay, I'll find everything with those exact words. Here's some of my favorite examples from healthcare. So a doctor will type SOB into a search. Now, you might think that SOB is going to bring back some very inappropriate results, and it might. But in medical speak, SOB stands for shortness of breath. When you put that into regular search engines, they have no clue about your context. So you're going to get all of those colorful answers. Mind Meter Research did a study across the US, Germany, France. They talked to over 2,000 healthcare managers and directors. What was very interesting is that 65% of healthcare workers expect to find exactly what they need in under 2 minutes when they do search, but only 48% actually do. So that's like a 20% gap between I need this information right now and me still searching for an answer. If you're a patient, it's worse, right? Think about when you go in and you type symptoms into Google, it can be a good and a bad thing, right? But what I'm really thinking about here when it comes to AI, when you're scared and you really want answers about your health, and you may not have all the medical terminology or know the right way to ask the questions, any keyword search is going to fail you. And that is when the stakes are the highest. Let's talk a little bit more about what semantic search is. I like to think of it as the difference between texting with a robot versus having a conversation with a doctor friend. Traditional search is all about matching words. In semantic search, it actually gets what you mean. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. If you were to type into old school search engine, I get winded walking up the stairs, what you're going to get are some random articles about stairs and fitness tips and general breathing stuff. But semantic search, when you ask that same question, the AI is thinking about it. And it looks something like this. It'll say winded, and it'll think, oh, I always have such trouble saying this word, dyspnea, or shortness of breath in medical terms. If you say walking up the stairs, it gets winded, triggered by some sort of exertion. It might come to the conclusion this person might need a cardiac or pulmonary evaluation. So this is how semantic search works. Let's ask that same question, but now AI is thinking like this. It'll see the word winded and it'll think of dyspnea. Look at walking upstairs and understand that being winded is being triggered by exertion. It'll probably come to a conclusion and present you with, you might need cardiac or pulmonary evaluation. The results are very different than getting useless blog posts. It's really about exertional shortness of breath. When should you be worried? What specialist do you need to see? Do you see the difference? It's not just finding words, it's understanding the context of what you need to know. This isn't far off in the future, it's happening now. And for some of you that are using Google, you may already have AI embedded into your Google searches. Let me put on my health informatics hat for just a second and tell you why this is a big deal from a systems perspective. We can use semantic search and interoperability. Last week, I took a class on building agents, and we're using semantic search to create patient resources that we can exchange with FHIR. There is a general intelligence layer now that we have called semantic interoperability, which means that if we're standardizing information in one system, it can actually be comprehended in a different system. Lastly, healthcare data is notoriously messy. You can't use messy data in AI because you're going to get messy answers. When we're getting a lot of heterogeneous data from different sources, we can use semantic search to help us think through how we should treat this data. Regardless of how somebody takes this data and puts it into their system, once we get it standardized and we're exchanging it, when we get it back into our system, we can ask questions about that data using semantic search. So, is it really going to change your life every day? Yeah, and it's doing it right now. If you're a patient, your medical searches are going to feel more like you're talking to somebody rather than just throwing questions out and hoping something sticks. It'll become easier to find a specialist because you can describe your symptoms in a way that's easy for you and not med speak. You get your lab results back and you want to understand what they actually mean. You can run them through semantic search and it can tell you what that means for you. This whole healthcare ecosystem, research that used to take days is now just going to take you minutes. What I talked about last week, spending more time with patients instead of hunting through records is possible because documentation is getting smarter and more connected. Let me tell you, your professional development is going to change because you'll be able to be more targeted to what you actually need. Bottom line here really is that we are moving from a search world to an understanding world. Questions are going to be interpreted by AI that actually provide clinical context, your personal situations, and your medical relationships. Right now, when you put in a search, it's missing that rich detail. I'm excited about this and the solutions I'm building. This stuff is mind-blowing when you're on this side of it, looking in and experimenting every day. The healthcare revolution, it's really happening now, whether we are ready or not. Here's what I want you to try this week. The next time you search for medical information, go to comparison. Go out to your regular Google, don't use the AI portion of it or use some other search engine. And then also go out to one of the free chat, Claude, Perplexity, and put your question in there in the way that you would just ask it if you were talking to a friend. Look at the difference in the output that you're going to get from each one. One of them's just going to give you words that are related to it and information related to the words that you put in. Others going to have some understanding and context and bring you back solutions or information that has more meaning to you. This is exciting stuff. Do me a favor. I'm working on the background and just playing around with it. What's a medical question you've always wanted to ask? Think about something that's taking you too long to find an answer for that you think could be solved in seconds. Next week, we're going to be talking about embeddings. It's very interesting and it'll help you understand AI better. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. I will catch you here again next week on the flip side.